Hey there folks, my name is Peter, and today we're talking Ryobi Snow Shovel. That's right folks, so it's officially winter here in upstate New York, and that means basically three things. Hot coffee, go Bills. Snap-on socks, honestly the best socks that I've ever bought. I may have a new unboxing video coming soon, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And snow. Now don't click away from this video if you already have someone that shovels your driveway or you do it yourself, because the tool that we're gonna review today is really for getting inside some of those cracks and crevices that a big snow plow isn't going to be able to do. On my property, I have three areas where I'm really hoping that this thing's going to shine. I've got a little walkway right behind my garage. I've got a dock where the boat is, and that just gets covered with snow, obviously. And then I've got my back deck. Now, of course, decks and docks, they're made to get wet. So you don't necessarily need to remove the snow, but my general preference is if I can remove it, I would like to. That doesn't mean I'm going to be out there every single day, but you know, when the mood strikes, especially now that I have a tool, you may find me out there. So today we're gonna unbox, build, repeat. That's sort of the mantra of this channel. In fact, should I be putting that on a t-shirt? Let me know what you all think in the comments. If I had a t-shirt, unbox, build, repeat, because that's sort of what we do here, was that something you might be interested in? Anyway, let's get to unboxing the Ryobi Snow Shovel, and let me tell you a little bit more about it. So when you buy this thing, you're not actually buying a unit unto itself. Instead, what you're buying is an attachment for an existing tool that you probably already own. In my case, I have the Ryobi Weed Whacker. So in this box, which I paid $120 for on Home Depot's website, although I think the price has since gone up to about $150, so maybe I got it on some sort of Cyber Monday deal, I'm not really sure. This is just the attachment to the Weed Whacker. Now this unit, they call it their snow thrower attachment. It's got a 12-inch clearing width, a 6-inch clearing depth, and it's a universal attachment. So it'll fit on more than just the Ryobi Weed Whacker. On the website it says it's basically universal. You can use it on almost any weed whacker that has a removable end. So this is part of the 40-volt system, and today for our testing we're gonna use a 5 amp hour battery. I'm gonna make sure it's fully charged at the beginning. We're gonna try and do basically everything, and then I'm gonna tell you how much battery we have left at the end. So to unbox this today, we've got our neck knife. Now I reviewed this Boker Magnum on a recent video. I've actually been really enjoying carrying this thing around. It fits in here quite nicely, and generally what I do is I leave it in my Carhartt pocket. Today because I have the microphone, I'm not, but that's typically where it goes. All right, so this is the blower in all of its glory. I just dropped something. All right, so what are my first impressions of the unit? I would say it's actually a little bit heavier and more well-built than I previously expected. One of the things that I was worried about, which looks like my fear came true, on the bottom here, so this portion is all flat. You do have a few screws sticking out. I was wondering, are there gonna be screws sticking out? Because if you're gonna run over the deck and stuff like that, that you don't wanna get scratched, that could be a problem. So, but that being said, I'm not exactly sure how this is gonna fit once we get it on the unit, so it's possible this will be up in the air and then you just gotta kind of make sure you don't lower it. It does have an all plastic construction, so you will find reviews of this product elsewhere that are sort of lamenting the fact that this is all plastic. I'm not super worried about it, but just be advised, it's not like your typical snowblower with those metal blades. And then additionally in the box, we got this, looks like it's another handle. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not exactly sure what this is for. Maybe you can clip this on there and then you can kind of get both hands on it. We'll see. And then the last thing in the box is, as always, the manual. It's sort of funny in the manual, the picture of the man that they have using this thing is certainly not dressed for winter, so minus a couple points for that. But it does look like he's holding it up such that it's not really gonna scratch, which is what we would want. So let's get this hooked up to our Weed Whacker. So like I said, for our Weed Whacker, I've got the 40 volt. This is their carbon fiber. They had a few different options the day that I went into Home Depot and I decided to pick up this one. It's worked super well for me thus far. And I'm given to understand that all we really have to do is we loosen this, and then this pulls right out. So there is some grease on this spindle. I'm assuming as part of like your regular maintenance, you probably are greasing this thing. Looks like we still have a fair bit inside of this unit, so we don't have to do anything today. Now, this is much heavier than what I just took off of there. Gonna be a little bit harder to do this. There we go. So that snapped right in there. Tighten this down, and there you go. This is the entire unit, kind of in one piece. The ergonomics, so man, that is heavy. Whew, but you're gonna be resting it on the ground, and those screws don't look like they're gonna make contact with the deck directly because just the natural angle of this keeps them high. So, see how it goes. That's pretty cool. At the lower level of this deck, it's icy. Like I said, we're not gonna scratch anything. It actually throws it quite a ways. The other thing I'll say is that this is pretty wet snow. It has been snowing here pretty much every day, and then it melts a little, freezes, it melts, it freezes. So this is not light powder, and this thing's making quick work of it. So that's pretty cool. But let me finish up this section, and then we'll take you all back up to the deck and see how it does there. So after doing half the dock rather, we went from 4 bars down to 3 on our 5 amp hour battery. Now I'm gonna try this up here on the deck. 1, the snow on this deck is much thicker than what was on the dock. And 2, this deck is actually carpeted underneath. I know you can't see it with the snow. So I don't know how well this is going to work, but this is actually the primary use case. I generally want to get this off of here. It's heavy. Obviously when it melts, it's annoying. So let's see how it does. This is definitely a job. It's a little easier than shoveling, but not nearly as easy as using an actual snowblower. So set aside some time if you plan to do this. But let me wrap up out here, and then I'll take you back inside for some final thoughts. All right, folks, so I'm back inside. It's a little bit warmer, thankfully. Let's get into my final thoughts as well as a couple pros and cons for this Ryobi snow thrower unit. First, let's start with the pros. I have 3 of them. Number 1, the battery life is pretty good. After doing the entire deck and 50% of the dock, we still have 50% battery life left. So even if I did the whole rest of the dock, we're still gonna have maybe 25% remaining, which is to say, if you're gonna do this with a small driveway, a sidewalk, a deck, a single 5 amp hour battery will be more than sufficient for your needs, assuming you're only gonna do this once a day. If you're doing it more than once a day, I think you want to wait till the cons. Pro number 2, this works really well with wet snow. None of what I was dealing with out there was just fresh powder, right? This is all wet, heavy snow, and this thing chewed right through it. So I thought that was pretty great. And then number 3, I think that this is a wonderful alternative, especially at the price, to using a shovel for some of those harder to reach areas like your decks, like your sidewalks, like your patio walkways. So I think for stuff like that, it really hits the mark. All right, and then let's get into the cons. Now, the biggest con for me is the weight. It's very heavy. And in fact, it's sort of awkward because, you know, if you have a shovel and you're just making straight lines, right? Of course, everybody knows there's a lot of different ways to shovel. It's almost like cutting the grass. But you could just keep doing straight lines if you're gonna push something off of a deck, for example. Now, every time you make that straight line and you walk backwards, there's no weight, there's no added anything. You're just walking forward and backward. Not the case here. And it's not only that it's heavy, it's that it's awkwardly heavy. Now, it's possible that this attachment they gave us may have helped with this a little bit. I'm positive it's not gonna solve the problem, but I was just using the same handle that I had for the weed whacker, and maybe that was suboptimal. But nonetheless, every time you're walking back and forth, picking it up with one hand and making sure the front stays up, because you don't really want to drag it backwards, I don't think, is a chore, which means you need both hands, and then you're bending down, and it's just sort of awkward. So to me, it's very heavy. I view that as a major con, specifically in cases where you're going to be using this thing a lot, right? In my case, I am going to clear off my back deck handful of times a year, maybe a half dozen or so. So it's not the end of the world. But if this was my only snow removal device for my driveway, I think it's way too much. I don't want to be using this thing every single day. Now that will ladder us into our final con, which is limited scale. Specifically, this thing has a 12-inch clearing width. So that's left to right, you have 12 inches that you're working with. Every pass that you make is clearing off 12 inches of snow. Now, even your smallest shovel is gonna be about 18 inches. And of course, they make 38-inch snow shovels, right? Because this is really a volume game. Now, of course, there's a trade-off because the bigger the shovel, the more the snow, but then the heavier it is, and it's a whole thing. But for my like front patio walkway, I use an 18-inch shovel. Takes me a couple seconds, weighs nothing, costs, I don't know, 20 bucks maybe. So it's very limited in that respect, which means if you're gonna clear a large area, it's gonna take you a non-trivial amount of time, and then you couple that with the weight, and maybe you're not having as much fun as you thought you might. So where I think this product falls is that, for me, it is not a replacement for your snowblower. It's not even a replacement for your shovel in some cases, but I love it for your back decks, I love it for your docks, I love it for your patio walkways, stuff that, basically anything that you don't need to clear every day, right? And to be clear, some days we get so much snow that I could be out there with the snowblower 3 or 4 times. I mean, if you get a foot of snow, you don't want to wait until you get a foot to start cleaning it up. So you have to just bear that in mind when you're considering this tool. But all that being said, as a sort of specialty item, I personally like it. I don't want it as my day-to-day, all-the-time snowblower, but I do think it's worth it. 120 bucks. I think it was, like I said, 150 at the time of this recording, so not bad. Well, let me know what you think of this unit and this review down in the comments down below. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the very next video.